Okay, the last example we're going to do this evening is going to be example 311. This is going to be another vector subtraction to determine a resultant, in this case, resultant J. So if we look at the bottom of page 56, we will find the problem statement for example 311. Here we want to graphically determine the resultant J using A is equal to, or I'm sorry, A minus B minus C plus D. So the vectors in their positive directions are drawn right here. So we want to start there, and then we will do the vector addition. So I'm going to go over to AutoCAD. I'm going to open up my start file. It's up at the top here. And then we are going to draw each one of the vectors we see here. So I am going to switch to my object layer and draw each one of my values. Okay. Don't forget to resave as example 311. Now, as we can see in the example, it wants us to take A minus B. Instead of writing it A minus B, we're going to add the negative quantity of B. And then the same thing for C, we're going to add the negative C. So what I've done in AutoCAD here for my vector equation, notice that I have A plus vectorially negative B. Make sure you put that in parentheses, bless you. And then plus vectorially negative C. Okay. Now, if you did what I did starting the problem, I drew all of my vectors in their positive position. So that means B is going up and to the right and C is going down and to the right. So what I need to do is I need to change my positive B to negative B. Easy peasy. I'm just going to erase my arrowhead and I am going to put it on the opposite side. So B now is going to go down and to the left, but I also have to put a negative in front of the B to relabel it. C, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to erase the arrowheads, put it on the opposite side. So now it's going to be going up and to the left. And then I need to rename C so that it's negative in front of C. And now I just simply add them tip to tail, just like we did in the past. So starting at my equal sign, I'm going to start, my first vector is going to be A. So I need to identify my origin at the tail of A, making sure it's large enough to be able to see. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the negative B. So the B is already in its negative position. So I'm going to move its tail to the tip of A. And then I'm going to move negative B to the outside here. Okay. Then I'm going to add negative C. So I'm going to move the vector, the tail of negative C, and put it at the tip of the negative B. And then lastly, I'm going to move D's tail to the tip of the negative C. So essentially we did a vector addition, but the two that were subtractions, we added their negative version, okay? Now to put my J in place, I'm going to go on my Object 2 layer, draw my line from my origin to the tip of the last vector, put my arrowhead on the end here, kind of exaggerate it, make it a little larger because it is the resultant. Label this J. Okay. And now we're going to dimension it. So I'm going to go on my notes layer, do an align dimension, endpoint, endpoint. Can't see my dimension. Okay, that's okay, because I know that I can go to my annotate tab, arrow down by the dimensions, modify. I'm going to start with, I don't know, I'll start with 25 as my scale factor, set current, close, not big enough. Go back, 75, sure, I'll try 75. Okay, set current, close, 75 is great. My value is 365, so I'm just glancing. That looks good. Okay, and then now I'm going to go to my home angle, go from J to the horizontal, which happens to be the A vector here. And I'm going to scooch this to the outside. There we go. And 81 looks like a good number as well. So if we go to the answer on the following page, you'll notice they have 81 and 365. Now, in the book, I didn't mention this until now. If you compare your answers to how they have it in the book here, you are going to notice something. They kept their C and their B in the positive direction. But notice that we added tip to tip for A and B because we were subtracting B. So we did tip to A and B. Then C had to go to the tail of B. And then D, because it was added, had to go to the tail of C. The tails went together. So This is correct to do it this way as well, but you have to remember more things that are different in the process rather than just changing the direction of B and C once and then adding their negative version, just like you would do a vector addition. I believe our method, if you would, is easier to add the negatives rather than try to do tip to tip and figure out which ones the tails go together or the tips go together because you're adding or subtracting in the equation. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So I encourage you to do it this way. If you like the other way or you learned it the first time and you're, in a different class that way, that's fine, but just make sure you get the correct answer. I like this because it just utilizes the same process and we only do one thing different, and that's changing the direction to a negative, and then we add the values in the same way that we would do a vector addition, okay? So any questions on example 311? This is the fourth example in our practice problem. So if we go back to our practice problems, you will notice today we got done with the first four. We still have two to finish, okay? So do not hand the practice problems in until the end of class on Wednesday, which is the next time that we get together, okay? So, so just like hold that file and we'll be adding to it. But what I did want to talk to you about was assignment number 3. Assignment number 3, you will be able to do all of the problems except the last 2 at this point. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording here and then we'll just briefly go over those first problems so you can see how they relate back to the items that we did this evening. So I'm going to